settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive thoughts.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy Devan, and today we are diving into some fun topics on the Mindset Cafe. We are diving into the money mindset. We have a special guest, Pericles Rellas. He is a money mindset expert who spent over 25 years really helping tens of thousands of people redefine their relationship with money and in turn their relationship with themselves. So I don't want to dive too much into his story because I want him to be the voice on that. You know, it's always best coming from the source. So with further ado, thank you so much for having taking the time of your day and coming and joining us at the Mindset Cafe, Pericles.
Devan, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. And I just got to say that opening music, the rhythm just got me moving. It was so cool. So thank you for having me on.
Of course, and I appreciate that. So let's dive into your story a little bit, right? What led into the whole money mindset? Let's do a little brief rundown and rewind to your bring up, your childhood, your parents, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I was raised like a lot of people, I think, in the United States, where we didn't talk about money. It wasn't something that we asked about. It wasn't something that we were taught about. We never would ask anyone how much they made or how they earned it or anything like that. And so it was just a taboo subject. And as I grew up, I noticed that there were certain patterns, but they were really undistinguished for me around my ability to earn money, my ability to make more money. And it was just a frustration for me. And then at a certain age in my life, I think it was around 94, I stopped looking outward and I started looking inward, and I really looked at my life and who I was and why I was the way I was. And I started doing personal development programs, found one that I absolutely loved, and then became a leader within that organization and worked with them for many, many years, and then continued on the path of self-exploration. And I realized that there isn't one right answer for me. There's only the right answer for me right now. And so I've worked in many modalities, studied many modalities, from Buddhism to Abraham Hicks to Dr. Joe Dispenza and, Eckhart Tolle. Just the list goes on and on and on. But when I first started working with clients, I wanted to be a business coach. I wanted to help people make more money. And that's really what happened in the very beginning. I was blessed in that the people I was speaking with were starting to see the results that they wanted. But the thing that I noticed was they were stuck in a cycle that was undistinguished. So if they were somebody who was always behind at the end of the month, they were still behind at the end of every month. If they were somebody that was just breaking even, they were still breaking even. Or if they were someone that was just always stressed about money, they were still stressed about money. And this just was absolutely ridiculously insane for me, because they were making more money. And the thought is you make more money and all that goes away, but it wasn't. And so I started looking at, okay, what's going on here? Why is this happening? And over the next 2.5 years or so, I distinguished two things. One, we all have what I call a financial thermostat, or a money mindset. And it regulates how much money we can earn, how much money we can keep, as well as our thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. And then the second were the 4 keys to resetting that financial thermostat. So we can earn more, we can keep more, we can have the sense of joy and happiness. And I started applying that with my clients. And over the next 2.5 years, it was extraordinary. The results were off the charts. This person wanted me to work with somebody else they were talking to, and then they wanted somebody else to work with. Everyone was hearing about this and wanting to work with me. And that's where the journey down this path started. And since then, it has been, for me, an ongoing journey. It's one development, one new exploration, one new challenge, one new plateau, one new summit to reach. And it's been an extraordinary path. And that's how I got to be here with you.
That's so awesome. And I think it's so interesting, back to something you said, in the beginning, that, even when I was a kid too, like, you were taught not to ask about how much someone made, even about how much something is. And it's like, that's how we learn. And it's the weirdest thing, because we're taught that it's impolite to ask, but at the same time, how do you know unless you ask? Right. And that was when you said that, I was like, man, I haven't heard that. Maybe it's just because I'm in the space of entrepreneurship now, but and we look at money a little bit differently. But I remember being a kid and, being curious on when someone said they were a doctor or, whatever. And it's like, oh, how much do you make? It's like, and you get scolded by your parents. But, something that you said, though, it really interested me and you kind of answered it, but I want to dive in, was the thermostat, right? And just a little side note, I love the whole on your page and everything, the money mindset, because I actually just dropped a book called Money Muscle Mindset. And it's actually a book about opening gyms and so forth. But it was just the correlation. I was like, oh, we got to have you on. But let's dive a little bit into that thermostat, that financial thermostat. And why do you think it's a cycle? Because, let's say we start making more money, and I've seen it firsthand from people, is like they do start making more money and it's like their problems just kind of grow along with that in scale.
Yeah. And this is the whole point of the thermostat, modality, is that we know what a thermostat is. We've all used one. In our homes, in our cars, in our ovens, whatever. And when it's set at a certain temperature, let's say 72 degrees, and it's really cold outside, the cold air comes in and suddenly the room gets colder, it kicks on the heat. It's got to raise that temperature back up to 72 because that's where it is set. It doesn't think, it doesn't rationalize, it just does, black and white. And then the inverse is true as well. If it gets really hot, turns on the AC to bring the temperature back down. Well, our financial thermostats are exactly the same way. We were programmed at some point during the course of our lives for a certain amount of money we can earn and a certain amount of money we can keep. And when we earn more than that, that thermostat kicks in and we start disappearing money until it comes back down to the place where it is comfortable or it is set. And that's why we see the majority of lotto winners go bankrupt within the first 5 years of winning huge amounts of money. We see our superstars in athletics who make tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, oftentimes going bankrupt within a few years of retiring. Well, why is that? It's because they haven't reset that financial thermostat setting so that it can accommodate more money. And until we do that, we're doing exactly what you said. We're in a cycle of we'll earn more and then we'll lose it. And we'll earn more and then we'll lose it. And the more we earn, the more we're going to lose. And the more that pendulum swing is going to swing.
That is so true. I mean, do you think that it kind of like that cycle kind of comes from almost when you have a lot of money, or when all of a sudden you're making more money, you have an abundance mindset to a degree, and then all of a sudden you were too far in that swing of abundance of, you think it's all just, going to always be there, and you're not being smart about it. And then all of a sudden you start losing just the same amount, like you said, with that thermostat. And then you go into like a scarcity mindset, until you get back up. And then it's like that, back and forth.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It's both are playing in. Yes, these are both in play. So that thermostat kicks in and starts to bring the money down. So a great example, just to speak to what you were just saying, is I have a really good month. And suddenly I'm just making up numbers here. Let's say it's $1,000 you need every month, but all of a sudden you make $2,000 in the course of a month. You think, whoa, I'm on fire. I can do this. I've arrived. And you go out and you buy a new car and you put yourself on the hook for a $750 payment every single month. Right. Well, now you've got this new payment that you're on the hook for. And the next month, instead of making that extra $1,000, all of a sudden you make $500. You've made $500 less than that $1,000. Now you've got the $750 plus the $500. There's this huge swing. And then we go into a scarcity mindset. We go into a fear mindset, and we start cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and making things small. And we go into contraction. And that momentum is very hard to break. You imagine something that's moving and it's moving very, very quickly. It takes a lot of energy to stop it, just like it takes a lot of energy to get it going. Well, we don't want to get into a momentum of contraction, but that's what happens. So the thermostat kicks in, starts reducing, and then all of a sudden our mindset kicks in like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I got to figure this out. And then we start contracting as well. So both of those things in play, and it's a disaster.
That is so true. So, I mean, off of that point, though, that would you say, because there's, trimming the fat when you need to trim the fat, right? Makes sense.
Yep.
But also, then there's the flip side of it that, some people will say, you don't worry about, the small payments and condensing stuff and trimming the fat when it's you have this influx of money, or let's say that you have a new salary or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, I have my own personal thoughts, and it's, maybe it's again coming from the business side of my mind, but what are your thoughts on, always trimming the fat, or not even viewing the fat?
This is a great conversation. So there are a couple of things that we want to look at. First and foremost is, are we making the choices around money, where we want to flow our money or where we want to spend our money? Are we making those choices consciously? Are we making them from our critical brain, or are we doing what we think is going to make us look good? And this goes back to the point we were speaking about earlier in terms of a culture that we live in. We don't talk about money. We're not educated about money. And yet we live in a social media world where everyone wants to look like they're a player and everybody looks like they're jet setting and spending all this money. These people don't have money. What they have is debt. They're creating and building debt in order to look like they've got wealth. And the only way to shift that, if you want to shift that, is to move that mindset from, I'm going to go into debt to look like I'm wealthy. It's more important for me to look like I'm wealthy than it is for me to actually have the wealth. Two, I don't care what people think about me anymore. What I care about is taking the actions that are going to fulfill me actually creating the wealth in my life that I want. And I think as an entrepreneur, we want to look at it from that perspective as well. I remember a friend of mine years and years ago had just started this new business, and he had an idea which he thought was amazing. Everyone who worked for him thought it was amazing. He went and got all of his employees, leased them all a brand new BMW. It was sick to watch it. It was just insane watching it, and it all collapsed. It just all collapsed. Are we looking at things from a perspective of, okay, how do I grow this business smartly? How do I grow my wealth in a way that's going to last and sustain? And I think that one of the analogies I like to use is being in an intimate relationship or a significant other. Imagine if you treated your significant other the way most of us treat money. I want you here when I want you. I want as much as you if I want you when I want you. I'm never appreciative when I do get you. I'm going to show you off to everybody. Look how cool I am. Look how awesome I am. I get this beautiful person on my arm, all of it. But we never think of them when they're not there. And all we want is them when we want them. Well, that would be a very short-lived relationship. It would just end very, very quickly. But what if when we weren't with them, we were actually thinking about them? We were thinking, how can I be a better man in this relationship? How can I be a better partner in this relationship? How can I empower them? When they come into the room, how grateful I am that they're in my life. How grateful I am to have them as a part of my life. What can I do to improve this relationship, to make this relationship better, to create a future together? One that's based on mutual respect, mutual admiration, and mutual love. Well, if we started to relate to money in the same way, suddenly we would see things very, very differently. We wouldn't look at money as just a simple object. We would look at money as an opportunity for our own growth, for the opportunity for the growth of the people around us that we care about and love, and an opportunity for that money to grow as well and sustain us for a long period of time rather than a quick flash in the pan.
No, definitely. And I mean, the relationship analogy, I mean, that's pretty much an abusive relationship, right? Like a psychological abusive relationship.
Yes,
But
exactly.
but that's the same kind of relationship essentially you're having with yourself, because at the end of the day, finances and your money mindset, it is a mental game, and you are putting yourself through this mental abuse, basically making these swings back and forth. And I mean, something that you've said is, that our relationship with money is a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think if we really look at, and this was one of the things I started to discover, and this is an ongoing discovery for me, is how we relate to money really does mirror how we think about ourselves and how we relate to ourselves and the way we relate to the world around us. Are we very transactional? Are we very just, I expect it the way I expect it, and I don't care about anything else? I don't think about things other than how much can it bring me? How can it make me look in this moment? And when we start to notice those behaviors and we start to shed those behaviors and we take on new behaviors, suddenly we understand what money can provide and what money can't provide. And once we have that relationship with money, kind of like our significant other, you would never ask your significant other to rebuild your engine if they'd never even looked at an engine before. It was like, no, it's just outside of their realm. But we expect money to provide us with things that it can't. We think money can provide us with love. We think money can provide us with satisfaction, security, a sense of joy and happiness. It can't provide any of those things. And I can prove it to you. I've seen it over and over and over again with people who have gobs of money, millions and millions, in some cases, billions of dollars, and they're miserable. There's no joy, no satisfaction. And I've worked with people who have very, very little money, and they have complete satisfaction, complete joy in their life, complete sense of security. So it isn't the money. And when we discover that and we realize that, suddenly we relate to ourselves differently. We have a different expectation of money. And then we have a different relationship with the world around us. So that mirroring is really important. But the first thing we have to do is be willing to look at it. We have to be willing to look in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, this is what I really see. This is how I really am around life. And then own it. And rather than beating ourselves up with that, acknowledging and say, okay, this is how it's been up until this day. I'm shifting that. I am now taking on something different. It's kind of like I was a jerk most of my life up until I started looking inward. I was a jerk. I was the worst person to hang out with, right? But there was a moment when I said, you know what? I'm done with that. I'm no longer going to be that person. I'm going to be someone new. Now, I could have beat myself up for the rest of my life over how I was, or I could have moved on, gone back and clean up the things that I need to clean up and create the life that I want to create. And that's what I chose.
No, that is so awesome. And I mean, from that too, like I get the whole aspect of it's like you have to, like in the mirror, you're looking at a reflection essentially of yourself, a mirrored version of yourself. And when you're looking at that, you're analyzing. Like my big thing is even on personal development, like you analyze your day, the interactions that you had with people, how did that make it, their day, was it positive or negative? If a conversation went a different way than you anticipated, why did it go that way? The same thing could happen with money, right? Like you look at your transactions, are they filling your cup, meaning doing more of the things that you want or your goal, or are they draining from your cup? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Spending money and looking a certain way or trying to be perceived in a certain way, to the external world, when in reality, that's not who you are. Right.
Right.
So I do want to circle back to the thermostat, because I think this kind of intertwines in that. And I honestly, I love I'm a huge analogy person, and I love the analogy. Like you can ask my business partner and I'll always throw out random analogies, but he's like, where did you think of that? I was like, I don't know. It just came to me. But the thermostat one makes so much sense to me, because like let's say, I live in California, you're in Nevada, right?
Yes.
Right. So it could be super hot outside and you adjust the AC down, and then vice versa, or you just put a blanket on. But we like to be a certain temperature, but that's just how we like our world. That's how we like our interactions with people and everything. So how could one determine, right, going in a little more in depth now, how could one determine how they've had basically maybe a thermostat that's been too low or set too low? And then on the flip side, how do they see if it's set too high?
Yeah. This is the easiest part of the equation is, what is my financial thermostat setting? Where is it set right now? Well, just look around. How much money are you able to earn? And if you look, and this is where that critical thinking comes in, because oftentimes we don't stop to actually look. We don't stop to look in the mirror and see and evaluate, well, how did my day go today? How am I doing? Am I keeping track of where I am? Am I moving up or am I moving down? We're never standing still, by the way. We're unless we're on a hamster. Excuse me. That definitely happens a lot with people around money. But just look at, how is it for you right now? How much can you earn? How much of that are you able to keep? Are you somebody who can earn a lot of money, but it's always gone at the end of the month? Are you somebody who can earn a lot of money? You can keep a lot of money, but you're miserable. You're in that hamster wheel. Well, if I just make a little bit more, I'll be happy. If I just make a little bit more, I'll have arrived. Is it all just kind of like ash in our mouth? There's no flavor. There's no richness to it. That's how you can tell what your financial thermostat setting is. That's the first part. And then the next part is starting to reset the financial thermostat. And I can take, do you want me to take you through what that looks like, Devan?
Yeah, definitely. That was
All
actually
right.
that was gonna actually be my next question.
I'm reading your mind. We're like in total sync here. So there's this distinction around money. It's a currency, right? And as a currency, it flows like a current, like any other current, like electricity or water or wind. Now, there's a distinct way in which money flows, and that is in a circle. So I like to say it's a universal band of energy, and it flows in this circle. It's a never-ending band. It just keeps flowing in a circle. We intersect that circle. So money flows to us, through us, and away from us, and then back around to us, through us, and away from us. And then there's a reservoir on the side that we get to keep. Now, because it flows in this circle, blocks anywhere in that flow are blocks everywhere in that flow. So we want to start to look at, well, what are the blocks in the flow of money that I have? So we can have blocks in the flow of money coming to us. They can look like, I hate my boss. I hate the wealthy. I think money's the root of all evil. If you're wealthy, you did something wrong to get there. Like those are all, there's just a few of them, but those are all blocks in the flow of money coming to us. We can't become that which we hate or that which we resent. So those blocks keep money from flowing to us. Money flowing away from us look like, I hate paying my taxes. I hate paying my fair share. I never pay people on time, or I always rook them. When I say I'll pay them one thing, I always tell them I'm going to pay them something less when the job is done. Or I just hold on to money. I never, ever want to pay out anything, right? Those are all blocks in the flow of money going away from us. And then there are blocks in the flow of money going to the reservoir on the side that we get to keep. You're never going to get there. You're not worth it. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not handsome enough or pretty enough. All of those things, whatever they are, all of those things block the flow of money in our lives. So what do we do to clear those blocks? I have a 4-step process. It's very simple and very challenging. But if you take it step by step, you can actually start to clear those blocks. And as we clear those blocks, we're resetting our financial thermostat so that we can earn more, we can keep more, and we can have a sense of joy and satisfaction, and ultimately a sense of enough in our lives.
No, that's awesome. And I will say though, I do have to admit, I do hate paying taxes.
But I get that. Look, I am not saying that you just pay randomly. You pay your fair share. You take
Right.
every deduction you're entitled to, pay every deduction you're entitled to. But not paying taxes is like saying, I hate paying this mortgage payment. Well, you're basically hating the thing that's, housing you, the place that you live. Same thing for taxes, a direct correlation to how much money you earn. So we say, I don't want to pay taxes. Even after all deduction, I don't want to pay that. Well, you're basically saying, I don't want to earn more money. And that will ultimately be a block in the flow of money coming to us, because you're saying, I don't want to pay taxes. Great. The best way to not pay taxes is 1, do something illegal and never want to do that. 2, give you less money.
No, definitely. I mean, that's how I see it. I do agree with everything that you're saying. And even, I mean, as much as I hate to pay taxes, the relationship I would say is like, people hate to go to the gym, but yet they still go because of the result, right?
Yes.
And so
yes.
I love having to pay more in taxes because it's a result of me making more money.
Yes.
But I still hate the process of having to pay the tax, but
yes.
there's an ebb and a flow to it,
Yes.
What do you think that maybe some of the common financial myths are that are holding people back from that true prosperity or that true reset of their thermostat?
Yeah. I think the first thing that is what we talked about is people have an expectation of what money can provide, and it's false. So again, money will never bring you love. Money will never bring you happiness. Money will never bring you a sense of fulfillment. I promise you, it will never do that. It can't do that. Money is not evil. There are a lot of people out there that think, oh, money's the root of all evil, right? Money is not evil. Money is not good. It's like saying electricity is evil or electricity is good. It's not. It's just electricity. Money is just money. It's a universal band of energy. Now, what money does is it amplifies the personality traits that we choose to allow to be amplified. So we all have the propensity to be good or evil in our lives, right? We can choose which one of those tigers that we want to feed, as the old Buddhist, I think it's a Buddhist parable about the 2 tigers. The student goes to the master and says, I have 2 tigers, master, in my head. One's evil and one's good. And the master says, well, which tiger are you going to feed? The one you feed will thrive. The one you don't will starve. And so we choose which behaviors we're going to allow to come forth in our lives. Money will amplify that. In other words, it will allow us to be bigger in those behavior traits. And we see that all the time. We see that with people who have a lot of money who are cruel, who are mean, who are greedy, who are demanding, who are diminishing, and don't do good in the world. And then we see on the flip side, people who have a lot of money who are very magnanimous, very generous, very kind, very giving, very respectful. It's not the money that made them that way. The money is simply allowing that amplification. And so we need to start to look at, rather than money being this evil thing that comes into our lives, it's just going to amplify that which we choose to allow to be amplified. So choose to be the person that you want to be. Find who that is in yourself and be that every single day. And as you continue to grow and make more money, that money will simply amplify those behaviors.
No, definitely. And money, to what you're saying, that money is a tool, and a tool can't be evil nor good. It's the person using the tool to make it basically an act of good or an act of evil. So
Correct.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. And people that have that misconception around money, that money is bad and the root of all problems, it's not. It's just a magnifier to any, it's almost like putting a magnifying glass on someone. It really amplifies your weaknesses, also your attributes, your skills, the good things about you. But that's all it is. It's really just a tool. So everything that you're saying, I definitely agree with. Now, what do you think is the mindset shift that someone that is wealthy has about money that maybe someone trying to become wealthy can adopt, just like, a simple tool?
Yeah, it's noticing the negative or the blocks, the negative mindset that you have around money and clearing those blocks out. I had somebody that I knew for many years who everywhere he went, money just showed up. It was just manifest everywhere. And it's because when he was a little kid, his mom used to have him count his money in his piggy bank every night before they went to bed. And so he knew how much was in there when he went to bed. Then he'd go to sleep. His mom would put more money in without him knowing it. So the next morning they'd get up and he'd count it again, and his money had grown. And so in his world, his money just grows. Money just grows. It just shows up. That was the mindset that he had. Really empowering mindset around money. Imagine going through life where money just shows up everywhere. Money flows to me freely and abundantly every single day, freed up from any negative blocks in the flow. So that's the first thing, is notice where are your negative mindsets, and then clearing those blocks out. And how you clear them, very simple. Number one, you have to acknowledge it. You have to own it and acknowledge it. Money's the root of all evil. I've had that since I was a little kid. Okay, I acknowledge that I have that conversation. Step one. Step two is releasing it. We have to let it go. And this is why most people who are trying to manifest, most people who are trying to visualize or law of attraction, they fail, is because they're operating on top of that negative mindset. So it's kind of like having a mud pie. Well, I got this beautiful mud pie. Nobody wants it. Well, let me put some icing on top of it. Here, it looks really good. You want to eat it now? No, it's still a mud pie. It's just got icing on top of it. That mud's going to poison anything you put on top of it. Well, those negative mindsets are going to poison anything you try to manifest on top of it. So you have to acknowledge it. Step two, let it go. I release this mindset. I release this negative thought about money. I don't care who you turn it over to, God, the universe, the trees outside, the ocean, whatever. But you have to say out loud, I let it go. I release it from my dominion. It no longer has power over me. And then the third step is now declare, what is money for you? One of the things I created is exactly what I just said. Money flows to me easily and abundantly every single day. And I have to feel it in my heart. I have to feel it in every fiber of my being. I have to feel and see the money flowing to me easily and abundantly every single day. And then the fourth step is to go out and watch for it. Watch for evidence of it showing up everywhere in my life. And I love it when clients come to me or people come to me and say, oh, well, Pericles, I was doing that, but I couldn't find money. There was money nowhere. Really? There was no money anywhere? You didn't see money anywhere? Well, I saw a penny on the ground, but I'm not going to pick that up. Okay, well, let's go back to the relationship analogy. Your significant other comes into the room. You're like, oh, I hate their hands. I don't want to look at their hands. It's just like, oh, it's awful. Well, how do you think they would feel? Same thing with money. If you don't honor and cherish a penny, the same way you honor and cherish $1 or a $10 or a $100 bill, money is not going to want to show up in your life. Your energetics or your vibrational frequency is going to shift from, I want money to flow to me easily and abundantly, to, I only want a certain amount of money or a certain kind of money. And that is immediately going to pinch you off from that. So those 4 steps will allow you, as you clear each one of those blocks out, that financial thermostat will get reset. And it's not like you're thinking of a number, and you can do this. This is a deeper cut at it, but you can start creating numbers like, okay, I want this amount of money, but there are some other additional steps that need to go with it. Like, why do you want that money? How much do you want, and why do you want it? And then are you going to honor what you're doing with that money based on what you said when it actually shows up? But those 4 steps will allow you to start to reset your financial thermostat very, very quickly.
No, that is on point. And it's funny, the penny thing. Like I know so many people that, won't pick it up because it's just a penny, or, they only pick it up if it's heads, and it's like,
Yes.
and it's like, I get it. And like, sometimes, like, if I'm having a good day and I see a penny, it's on tails, I'll flip it over and leave it for someone, knowing that someone else will pick it up because it's heads. But for the most part, you pick it up, it's still a penny. Like, you're telling me you wouldn't pick it up if it was $1 or a $10 or $100 bill. Like, right. It's still money, and it's there like for you, is put in your path for a reason.
Yes.
And so,
and just to your point, I one year found almost $800 in found money, just going through my day, just going out, doing my thing. Not every time, because there are times when it's dangerous. There are times when it's I can't, like, I saw money in a urinal once. Okay. Thank you for showing me that money's everywhere in my life. I'm grateful that it's everywhere, and I'm going to pass on this. But thank you. I'm still going to acknowledge it and appreciate the fact that it was put in front of me. And that's where we want to be in our relationship to money, because the minute somebody says, well, I'm only good with the big numbers, you've lost the game already. Because if you can't be good with the small numbers, you're never going to be good with the big numbers. If you can't be good with the small conversation with your significant other, you're never going to be good with the big conversations with your significant other. It all goes back to that relationship. Who are you going to be, and how are you going to empower money, and how are you going to allow money to empower you?
Yeah, I don't know if I would have picked it up in a urinal either. It did remind me of a funny, like, advertising campaign that someone did I think it was a Chinese restaurant. It was a folded up, what looked like $100 bill, and then they pick it up and you open it and it's a Chinese menu to the restaurant that was up the street. And I thought it was pretty funny and pretty clever. But no, it is so true. And before we start wrapping things up, because I'm really interested to get your take on this. The difference between what is your opinion or your definition of the difference between financial success and financial freedom?
Financial success exists when we create a certain amount of money that allows us to do the things that we want to do. Financial freedom exists as a mindset. There is no amount of money that's going to provide you with a sense of financial freedom. Financial freedom comes within. Once where you can have very little money and still have a sense of freedom in your life, a sense of financial freedom. So one is external and one is internal. And it's very important to parse those two things out and be clear about which is which and what you're dealing with and what you're speaking about. Great question.
No, I love that. And honestly, that's the way I interpret it too. Someone else asked me that question, and believe me, I'm not in the financial space and the whole money mindset like you are, but like, that was my original on the spot question. I was like, let me think about that for a second. And my whole thing was that financial success to me would be like a finite or a hard goal of an actual dollar amount, or your a certain amount of money you make in a year to live the life that you want to live, right? Where a financial freedom, it's you've gotten to the mental space that you can do what you want when you want, because you want, right? Whatever that dollar amount is, it might be 5 figures, it might be 6 figures, but you're living the life that you want because you want to, right?
Yes.
And so, like, that was my take on it. So I just wanted to kind of see what you said, and it's funny that we're aligned in that way. So that's awesome. Now, before we start to wrap up, I do like to ask this one question, right? And I will preface this by saying it is not a tombstone, right? So, for some reason I say that, and people sometimes still give me a tombstone reading, right? This is your legacy wall. And on this legacy wall, basically, is any message, short or long, that you would leave for the up and coming generations from the lessons you've learned along your life's journey.
Never stop learning. Never think you've arrived. life is a journey, and we're going to be on the journey a lot longer than we're going to be at the destination, whether it's going on vacation or whether it's earning a certain amount of money or whether it's accomplishing a certain goal. The minute we accomplish that goal as human beings, we're ready for the next goal. We're setting ourselves up for what's next. So we spend the majority of the time on the journey. Enjoy the journey, embrace the journey, and learn everything you can learn while you're on the journey, because that's the richness of life. That's when we meet people that we find empower us, enliven us, elevate us. And if we shut ourselves down and we stop living the life that we're designed to live, we start living somebody else's life, or we start living in fear and operating from a sense of, well, I can't do that, it's too scary, then we've given up on what's potential in or to happen in our life. So never stop learning and enjoy and embrace the journey, because it is such an extraordinary journey and it never ends.
No, that's awesome. I mean, there's that that proverb, the man that values the destination, or sorry, the man that values the journey will go further than the man that values the destination. And I think that is so true. And honestly, everything that you've said so far aligns exactly with that. So where can people connect with you though?
Yeah, they can go to one of two places. They can go to, I have two websites, periclesrellas.com or resetyourfinancialthermostat.com. Both go to the same place, periclesrellas.com. And right there on the front page is a link to my free masterclass where I share the 4 keys to resetting your financial thermostat. It's free to anybody that wants to watch it. I encourage anyone who's interested in this conversation to check it out, or find something that works for you. As I like to say, there is no one right answer for anyone. There's only the right answer for you right now. So embrace that which inspires you and grab it by the horns and go for it.
Thank you so much. And guys, make sure you guys share this episode with a friend. Make sure you share it with a family member so that you're not only improving your money mindset, but also helping your circle as well. Because at the end of the day, the better your circle is, the better you are. But with that being said, I just want to take another second to say thank you so much for coming on the show today, Pericles, and really dropping some knowledge for everybody.
Devan, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Cause in the game of life, mindset calls the shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking.